Hello friends! My scrapwood pile is steadily growing, so it's time to repurpose a few of the nicer pieces. I'm in need of some coasters for my ottoman table I built a few weeks ago. Since the table was built out of walnut, I would like to use walnut as well, so it's a perfect match. I will be using resin again to make the coasters look extra cool and unique. So, let me tie my hair back and lass uns anfangen. Here's a brief preview of the coasters I will be building today. I'm totally in love with the wood pattern. And I had enough wood left to build a tray. It's amazing to see what you can build out of scrap wood. Like always, let's start with putting on some safety gear. I ran all the pieces of wood through the wood planer to get an even thickness. I used one of my old coasters as a template. The coaster is 10.5 by 10.5 centimeters. Use a pencil to trace the templates onto the wood. When you trace two coasters next to each other, make sure you leave some room in between to accommodate the width of the saw blade. Use the miter saw to cut the pieces to length to fit in the forms that you will build for your resin pour later. Some of the lumber still had bark attached to it, so I used my sander to clean off anything loose. Use pieces of lumber and wrap the pieces with tuck tape. Then lay out those pieces on a leveled surface that is wrapped in tuck tape as well. Those pieces will build the form so you can pour the resin. Use silicone to glue the side pieces to the bottom and use clamps to secure those pieces. Make sure you don't leave any gaps. There will be a chance that the resin will leak out later if you do so. Keep repeating those steps for the rest of the pieces. For the smaller pieces, clamps are not necessary. Just make sure you stick them tightly to the bottom. Now it's time to mix the resin. I'm using Total Boat Thick Set. Resin is good for a lot of purposes, not just for crafts. But today we will use the resin for its intended use. Use a measuring cup when measuring the resin. It is very important that you follow the instructions of the resin. And now it's time for the resin dance! Let's have fun mixing! And that should be about enough mixing. Now it's time to add the colors to the resin. For the green I chose two different ones. I chose the alcohol ink and I chose the mica powder. I also mixed some white into the resin. Here you can see me combine the green mica powder with the resin. For all the products I'm using, you can find a link in the description below. Once everything is properly combined, pour the resin into the forms. I'm using the white resin on a toothpick to draw some patterns into the green resin. Here you can see me pour the resin with the mica powder. After a few minutes, you can see the metallic components of the mica powder shine through. Here's a quick close-up of all the different coasters I poured. The metallic components in the mica powder will settle down after a while, so make sure you come back about every 30 minutes and stir it up. Use a torch or a heat gun to pop any bubbles. Let the resin fully cure. My resin cured for about 72 hours. Now let's deassemble the form to take out the coasters. You can already tell how unique the coasters will look like. I can wait to slice them up. This is going to be the tray. For the few pieces that didn't want to pop off easily, I used the spatula to help me. Use a miter saw to clean up all the edges of all the pieces. Once you cleaned off all 4 sides of every piece, take all the pieces over to the planer to plan off the surface. I wanted to give the tray a cool, modern look, so I decided to router off all the edges on the tray. To do so, I used my cobalt router table. You can look in the previous video, I did a review on the router table. Now it's finally time to slice the coasters. The simplest way to slice the coasters is by using a bandsaw. For the fence, I had to extend it to accommodate the height of the coasters. To get even coasters, the trick here is to not bend the blade of the bandsaw. Apply light and even pressure to guide the piece through the blade. As for the coasters, I wanted it to match the tray, so I took my router table and routed off the edges of the coasters as well. Make sure you only router off the top. Like with every project that entails wood, there will be lots of sanding. Sand everything down to at least 240 grit. I did go a little farther, and 240, I actually went up to 400 grit. So everything is sanded down to 400 grit. Now we have to attach something on the back so it doesn't scratch the table once we use the coasters. For the coasters itself, there's different options. You can use either furniture pads, so you just stick them on the back. The second option, you can use cork. That's what I'm gonna do today. You can either buy a big roll of cork, or you can buy those little pre-cut sheets. They come with enough pieces on the back already. For the cutting board, I'm not going to attach any cork or little felt pads underneath. What I'm gonna do, I have these little legs I got from Amazon. I'm going to attach them with a screw right underneath it. For the cork, I would recommend to add some more glue. I'm using E6000 glue to make sure they do not come off anymore. Just add a thin layer of glue and stick the cork right on the back of the coasters. I finished attaching all of the cork pads on the bottom. Now it's time to put them to the side and let them dry. If you have something heavy, I would recommend putting it on top of the coasters while they're drying for the next 72 hours. For the board, we have to decide which side is going to be on top. This side has more resin, but I do like this side better, so I'm going to make this side the top side and this one the bottom. Use a drill to pre-drill the holes. Then use a screwdriver to insert the screws. Repeat those steps for the other 3 legs. My camera died, so I don't have a video of me attaching the legs. For the finish, I used Walrus brand cutting board oil. Don't be cheap with the oil. You want to apply an excessive amount so the board can soak in as much as it needs. Once the board has dried in about 24 hours or so, you can take off all the excess. Follow the same steps for the coasters. Apply the oil, let the oil dry, and take off all the excess. This is a few days later. The oil has dried and the coasters are ready to be used. What do you think? Do you like them? As for me, I'm totally in love with the coasters. I really love the pattern of the wood and the color combinations. As always, thank you so much for watching my channel. Thank you so much for the support, and if you like it, please give me a thumbs up. Thank you. Tschüss!